She called 911 on a 7-year-old girl for opening a dollhouse. Let that sink in. The kid, playing with her birthday present. And this woman thought it was a matter for law enforcement. Now, most folks would have packed their bags and left the madness behind. But not Mateo Ruiz. Not after what that woman put his daughter through. Not after what he uncovered about her little empire of lies, and what she'd stolen from the entire community. Let me take you back to how it started. Just a weekend escape, that's all they wanted. Mateo and his wife, Elena, had been running on fumes, city jobs, non-stop schedules, barely enough time to breathe. Their daughter, Camila, had been begging for weeks to go back to the old family cabin by the lake. So they finally did it. They drove 3 hours out to Silver Pine Hollow, a little lakeside neighborhood tucked between pine trees, and weekend smiles, thinking they'd get peace, quiet, maybe a barbecue. Instead, they got Karen. Well, not literally Karen. Her name was Dolores Whitmore. But you get the idea. Mid-50s, silver blonde bob, clipboard surgically attached to one arm, and a permanent squint like she was always judging a crime scene. Her house, right next to theirs. Her eyes on them from the second they pulled into the driveway. Camila had just turned 7. Her birthday gift, this massive, handcrafted wooden dollhouse, complete with tiny curtains, painted shutters, and little ceramic dishes. Mateo had been working on it for weeks. Camila could barely wait to open it. So when she asked, bouncing with excitement, "Can we set it up here?" Papi Mateo didn't hesitate. They picked a nice patch of grass right by the path that curved down to the lake. Big oak tree for shade, a soft breeze rolling in, birds chirping overhead. It was perfect. Too perfect. Because, about 10 minutes in, Dolores emerged. Not a wave, not a hello. Just the scraping sound of a metal tape measure dragging across grass. Camila, ever the sweetheart, ran over with her big doe eyes and said, "Hi, want to see my dollhouse?" Dolores didn't even blink. "That structure," she said, like she was reporting a biohazard, "is obstructing a community access path and is in violation of HOA Standard 5.7.2. Mateo blinked. "It's a toy." She ignored him, dialed her phone, and said loudly, "Yes, I'd like to report unauthorized usage of shared grounds and a potential safety hazard involving minors." "Yeah." She called the cops on a child's dollhouse. 15 minutes later, Officer Delgado pulled up. Good guy. Looked exhausted the second he stepped out of his car. Saw the dollhouse. Saw the kid hiding behind her mom. Then saw Dolores pointing like she'd discovered a bomb. You could almost hear his brain short-circuiting. But Dolores didn't stop there. By nightfall, Mateo got an email. 12. HOA violations in under 24 hours, untrimmed grass. Excessive laughter. A car parked at an aggressive angle. And I kid you not, a mailbox that was emotionally disruptive in color. At first, they laughed. Then the whispering started. Neighbors crossed the street when Mateo walked by. Kids vanished from the playground the moment Camila showed up. Elena, who worked as a pediatric nurse, got called into HR. Someone had sent an anonymous complaint about her unstable family life, affecting her professional environment. Then came the letter. Official HOA stationery. Dolores, turns out she was the HOA president, had filed a motion to suspend the Ruiz family's community privileges. No lake access, no parking, no playground, nothing. And Camila, she stopped smiling, started asking if the police were going to take her toys again. That was the moment it flipped for Mateo. He wasn't just a dad. He was a software engineer, a builder, a problem solver. And Dolores had just made this personal. So he did what any tech-savvy dad would do. He started digging. First stop, the county planning office. Turns out, the walkway Dolores claimed as private property was legally marked as shared community access, confirmed by original blueprints, and a decades-old deed clause Mateo had never noticed before. Then came the twist: a neighbor named Gloria, quiet woman in her 60s, kept to herself, but had lived in Silver Pine Hollow since the beginning. She pulled Mateo aside and said, 10 years ago, that path was used by everyone, until Dolores started planting shrubs and putting up signs. She'd slowly inched her landscaping further and further out, year after year, adding mulch beds, stones, fake boundaries until people just stopped arguing. One neighbor even moved away after a screaming match over kayak access. Mateo started logging everything: emails, recordings, even set up a cloud-connected security camera. When he caught Dolores moving old survey stakes, tossing them in her trash, and hiring landscapers to extend her driveway 6 feet past its legal limit. Mateo gathered every piece of evidence, bundled it into a folder, and showed up to the next HOA meeting where Dolores was already there with a slideshow. Photos of Camila playing, decibel readings of door closings, and something that looked suspiciously like a restraining order template. Dolores stood in front of the room and said, "These people are a threat to our peace and property values." And that's when Mateo stood up. No slideshow, no theatrics, just one man holding a folder. And he said, "I have here certified maps, deed clauses, and footage proving that Mrs. Whitmore has illegally seized public land for over a decade." He passed them to the board, and then dead silence, until Gloria stood up. "I remember the white paint lines," she said. "I remember when that walkway belonged to all of us." And then came the quote that ended it all. Dolores, red-faced and shaking, yelled, "If that walkway's public, why didn't anyone stop me?" Boom. HOA paused the meeting, called for legal review, and within 48 hours, Dolores was suspended. An emergency vote stripped her of her position. She was fined, forced to restore the original boundary, and compensate the community for legal fees. But the best part, Mateo, with help from a few other neighbors, legally purchased the easement rights to the section Dolores had tried to steal, meaning her driveway. Yeah, now it leads directly onto his land. A week later, Camila set up her dollhouse again, same spot, same tree, same giggle. Dolores watched from her window, powerless. No clipboard, no tape measure, just a bitter woman, watching karma unfold in pigtails and plastic furniture. And you know what that sound, the click of Mateo's gate closing, was louder than any gavel in any courtroom. But here's the real question. How many neighborhoods have their own Dolores? How many bullies are hiding behind HOA titles, stealing inches that turn into miles? Because no one ever stood up. Let's talk about it. What would you have done if it were your child? Was Mateo right to fight fire with facts? Or should he have just packed up and left? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk justice. Let's talk boundaries. Let's talk what it really means to protect your family. And hey, if you've got a story like this one, we're listening. Hit subscribe. We'll be here tomorrow.